Reaching out cold to business owners can be a great way to get yourself onto a remote sales role if you do it properly. Most people do not do it properly. In fact, they do it really, really badly. I'm going to show you one such example right now, break it down, and give you some ideas as to how you could do something different to this, i.e. something better if you are somebody who wants to get themselves onto a remote closing or setting or sales role, or by extension, somebody who wants to work with business owners to deliver them any kind of service whatsoever. This applies to really any kind of outreach at all. We're breaking down today another approach that somebody took to reach out to me to try and work on my sales team. They can see online from my online presence that I run a business, and they clearly want to set on my business. I'm going to show you exactly what they did right, what they did wrong, mostly what they did wrong, and how you could improve upon that. So let's take a look at this. First of all, once again, this is nothing personal against this individual. Purely using it as an example, I will get back to him and give him some advice, the same advice that I've just recommended here, so that he can improve that in the future, because I'm sure he's a great guy, right? We are criticizing his approach here. We're not criticizing the person, the individual, and I have made an effort to make sure that nobody can actually tell who this is. So let's take a look. First of all, this is the message that I received. And I'll show you the message first because that is the first thing that I saw. This came through as a direct message into my inbox over Instagram. Can you give me one reason why working with the most relentless commission-based setter won't elevate your business? We're going to get back to the message itself in just a second. And the reason for that is what most people will do when they see a message like this is go first of all to the page. Some people read the message first, but most people will go to the page, the profile, and see who sent it to them. Let's take a look at that first. So you can see if we go over to this guy's profile. First of all, the profile picture isn't so bad because we can actually see that this is a person, right? Much, much worse would be reaching out from an account with no profile picture. However, it's zoomed out so far, and you can see here the box that I put in there to obscure his identity so that we're not showing exactly who this is. You can see I didn't have to make that very big, and that's because the photo is so zoomed out you really can't see this guy's face properly. I would much rather see a closer, clear depiction of the face on one of these profiles because it just looks way more legitimate. If you're hiring somebody, particularly onto a sales team, you want to be able to see what they look like. That's just completely natural. That's something that you should be doing. Next thing, and the most obvious problem here, honestly, 0 posts, right? No posts yet. Okay, this is one up, at least, from having a private account, which is just so silly to me. Why would you keep the account private if you're using it for outreach? But no posts on the page. It just looks off. In this case, we don't even have story highlights. There's really nothing at all I can go on here to make any sort of assessment as to what this guy's up to, what he's about, who he is, how responsible he is, etc. There's no bio, but the main thing here that stands out like a sore thumb is no posts. So absolutely have posts on your page. If you're using it to reach out to business owners, I recommend a minimum 10 to 15 posts relatively recently, just showing that you're doing something reasonably interesting with your life and reasonably useful with your life. You don't have to be an influencer. You don't have to have every post to be like some sort of motivational reel about sales or anything like that. Just show that you do something with your life. It's not so much about what the content is, although you definitely get bonus points for having something interesting about you. It's mostly just the fact that having no posts looks really, really weird. It looks off. It makes me doubt whether this person is legit or a scammer. Having posts eases those tensions, right? So just have posts on the page. Very important that you do that. So the second thing I want to mention is the fact that he reached out to me. I wouldn't recommend reaching out to pages like me to ask to work on the sales team, because if he took 1 second to read my bio, he would understand that my services pertain to advice about sales and advice about getting onto sales roles. Therefore, clearly I'm not a very good target for somebody to reach out to work on their sales team. I would not recommend reaching out to pages whose niche is clearly in sales, because more than likely they're going to end up trying to sell you something versus get you onto the team. I would recommend going for another niche. I would also recommend you do niche down though. Stay in one niche, become a specialist in that niche, particularly for running outreach. You'll get to learn the way that niche talks, which is going to be absolutely massive for how you continue this. Right, let's get into his actual message. What did this guy say to me? So the message itself, can you give me one reason why working with the most relentless commission-based setter won't elevate your business? Right. It's bold. Okay, so we'll give him points for that. Also, a few steps back now, but I do like that he reached out. I like that he had the courage to actually send this message. That's a good start. Okay, fine. It's a bit too bold. It's too confrontational. It's gimmicky. I imagine someone probably put him up to this. Maybe they didn't, but I'll criticize it on merit anyway. I can see what he's trying to do there, because he's trying to rub me up the wrong way, trying to go against the grain, trying to run a bit of a pattern interrupt. But it's a bit much. It's a bit try hard, honestly. And what really kills it for me is the most relentless. Okay, first of all, we'll do it piece by piece, right? The most relentless. First of all, I would never, ever recommend anybody make claims like this using adjectives about their own personality and their own abilities, work ethic, particularly, with nothing to back it up. I would much rather see number-based evidence before any of that. I encourage anybody I work with, anybody who wants to run good outreach, anybody who wants to get themselves onto a good role, does not use adjectives to describe their attributes, right? Always use evidence. To summarize, he's just called himself the most relentless setter, but with zero evidence to back up what might be behind that. So those words are completely meaningless. Don't do that. Much better to start off with evidence, right? Numbers, cash collected, etc., that you can point towards in your last role or in your current role, or indeed from your previous life experience. That's not, if it's not related to sales necessarily. Don't just describe your personality attributes, because it sounds like you're bullshitting. Commission-based setter, like obviously every setter is commission-based, so that's a waste of words. Anytime you say something in less words, it has more impact than saying it in more words, particularly if you're just using kind of random fillers like this, right? Saying commission-based setter means absolutely nothing to me, honestly, and it won't mean a lot to really anyone who's ever hired a setter before. It might appeal to somebody who has literally never had a setter before, but in that case, we face a different problem, which is working on you're trying in that case to work on an offer that's never had a setter before, which is never going to be more than a gamble. It's always going to be a higher risk offer to go for. And yeah, so the overall premise of this is he's challenging me to give him a reason why the official, right, the self-proclaimed most relentless commission-based setter won't elevate my business. And unfortunately, I'm not buying it. What might, right, I'm not going to rise to that challenge that he's made. Where this might work would be if he had serious evidence about what he's done before. If he wasn't just describing himself as relentless. That's silly. Like I don't actually mind if he's relentless or not. I mind if he can get results. It matters way more. He's obviously going to be commission-based. Most setters are. It doesn't really work. The confrontational pattern break, pattern interrupt is something that I could potentially see working, although it's not something I would recommend. It's not really my taste or style. It could work if these other problems were fixed. This to me feels like a band-aid solution to not covering other bases, which are presenting value, right? Presenting evidence behind everything that you say. And what is yet to be seen, to be fair, would be follow-ups from this. If you followed up with me later today or tomorrow with a voice note, with a video, and actually explained some evidence as to why he is the most relentless commission-based setter, then this could potentially get to the point where it's something more useful. But as initial outreach, don't like this. Could be better based on all the reasons that I just described. Also, why not throw a video in there? If he was actually serious about working with me, he could throw in a video and he could personalize it to my company, why he wants to work for my company specifically. Either Instagram native video or a Loom video. I would accept both. I'll be much more interested in that. Always recommend that you do that. Clearly in this case, he's not that interested in me. He hasn't run his research on me, because if he read my bio, he'd understand what I did and that it would be less likely that I would actually be looking for a setter for my team in the first place. So, once again, nothing personal against this guy whatsoever. We have made him anonymous. Key ways you can improve this. right? First of all, the confrontational, edgy angle is more of a gimmick. It's not actually what's going to get you results. So I wouldn't even bother, because the chances that that lands on its face are relatively high. I kind of see what he's going for here. Where it could work is if he improved the actual thing that really matters and really moves the needle, which is not describing himself with adjectives, giving me evidence as to what he's done and telling me what he could do for my business. That's the key premise to any sort of message. Trying to give value. Illustrate that message with a personalized video, either a personalized Loom video or a personalized video in Instagram natively. Personalized, I mean talk about my company specifically, why you want to work for my company or the company that you want to work for. Make it customized, but don't make it long. Don't make it about a minute is what you're going for with that. Voice note would be secondary to that. I'd rather see a video. And most importantly, set the foundations up right from the start. Have a page where I can clearly see your face and have posts on the page. Hope that helps. And I hope you gain some value from that. Like I've said before, outreach is a really good way of getting yourself onto a remote sales role. It is a great way to get through to business owners, with a few caveats. You've got to do it right. You've got to do it properly. You've got to do it in a personalized manner, and you've got to follow up because it demonstrates sales skills. You've also got to make sure that you're targeting the right companies in the first place, because conversion is going to be lower naturally from outreach than it's going to be from responding to ads. And as such, you want to be selective about the companies that you're reaching out to. Hope that helps. Plenty more to come. See you in the next one.